I am with my good friend, Emily. Emily, introduce yourself. Say hi, please.
Hi, my name's Emily Angel. I am an attorney at Kids Voice of Indiana. I do mainly family law with a special interest in Guardian Ad Litem work. I work here full time. I supervise our Guardian Ad Litem program. I'm also the coordinator for our mobile law clinic. In addition to that, at my work at Kids Voice, I also have a private practice. It's pretty small, where I'm mainly doing private Guardian Ad Litem work in the donut counties.
So, Kids Voice is some of the absolute most fun people I've ever hung out with. So, one of the tragedies of the COVID, there's a lot of tragedies, was the golf outing was canceled, and it really was sad because I've had so much fun at those. Emily, thank you for agreeing to be interviewed by me. I appreciate
Yeah,
it. So, you mentioned Kids Voice. When you go to
yeah.
the Kids Voice website, it has a really cool tagline. It says, Indiana's champion for endangered children. Tell us more about this, because obviously helping kids is awesome, and that tagline got me to donate and spend time with you guys. But what goes on day to day at Kids Voice?
Sure. Well, first, let me say I appreciate your support of Kids Voice. You're one of our supporters, and we appreciate you and all that you've done. And we definitely look forward to having you at a golf outing at some point once it's safe to do so. So the way I see our work at Kids Voice, it's kind of threefold. We have three main programs. We have the Law Center, the Children's Law Center of Indiana. And in that program, we do a lot of advocacy and research and just kind of information sharing to the community, to the entire state of Indiana. We do road shows, we go and do presentations across the state, whether or not that be presentations about Guardian Ad Litem work or Chin's Law or family law. We do a ton of those presentations, and we've actually been able to switch some of that to virtual now too. So, even in these times, those issues are still coming up for families across the state, and for practitioners as well. The Law Center also produces the Chin's Desk Book, which is an awesome resource that's on the desk of every juvenile court judge in the state. We get a grant so that we can provide that resource to them, and our staff attorneys are hard at work preparing the 2020 Desk Book, so that'll be available hopefully sometime this year. Another program we have is our Safe Child Parenting Time program, SCPT for short. In that program, we actually bring parents and children in, and they're able to visit with one another safely. So these are parents who maybe have had mental health or substance abuse issues in the past, or there's some reason why the courts have decided their parenting time needs to be supervised with their children. It's our belief that children should have access to their parents, and we are able to provide a safe and now sterilized space for that. We were closed briefly, but we have reopened, and I know our CEO, Lindsay, and our director of that program, Claudia, they're doing everything that they can to keep that space very clean for our families who are here. Also, we have the Guardian Ad Litem program, and that program is the one that's mainly in Marion County. We are appointed by the civil family law courts to advocate for children's best interests in divorce cases, custody cases, paternity, guardianships, adoptions. So we train volunteers. A lot of them are local family law attorneys. So shout out to all of those folks who are helping us out. But we also have community volunteers, those who are non-lawyers who are trained by us as well, who go out and do investigations and write reports and advocate for kids in those types of cases. So, our mission is, advocating and serving children, and we do that in a wide variety of ways.
Emily, so you have to forgive my ignorance. I made it through about 6 months of private practice before I gave up on family law. And a lot of people watching this may not have any idea what a Guardian Ad Litem does. Can you kind of break that down for us?
Sure. So this is someone who is a party to the case in most cases. So it's someone that the court appoints. So when we're appointed, the Marion County courts appoint Kids Voice, the agency, as the guardian ad litem for the child. And then we assign volunteers to the case. This can also be done privately outside of an agency as well. But in any event, the guardian ad litem, once they're appointed, their role is to reach out to the parties, so the mom and dad, grandparents, whoever's involved, reach out to the child or children in the case, and talk to them, try to glean, what's going on in the situation, and investigate, whatever the issue in the case is. So let's say it's a parenting time dispute or a custody dispute. Try to talk to everyone involved to see what would be best for the child. Guardians Ad Litem also talk to a lot of third parties. So if anybody's involved in counseling, or sometimes they'll talk to the teacher. They also look at records. And so they're really kind of the eyes and the ears for the court outside of the courtroom, because obviously the judges can't go out and do those types of investigations. And so it's a lot of people think of GALs as neutral, a neutral party in the case. I don't really like that term because I think of them as an advocate for the kid. And so I don't think that's a neutral position. But it is someone that should be looking at everything from the perspective of the child, and what's best for them.
And so not every case has a guardian ad litem assigned to it. Am I right about that?
That's correct. Yes. So a lot of times we are appointed in cases where either the parties have requested us, or the judges have just on their own decided that we're needed, because there have been some allegations of danger to the child, or substance abuse issues, mental health issues. And so a lot of the cases that we're getting involved in are very contentious, and there could involve some danger for the child if a good decision isn't made. And so the judge just wants that extra background information and someone to advocate for the kid.
Am I right then? So the parties can request it, or the judge can by himself request it as well?
That's correct.
And then how challenging is it for, in your role as a guardian ad litem, how challenging is it to walk up to the parents and be like, hey, I'm getting involved? I can't even imagine. I feel like I'm a rational person, but if somebody just kind of came up to me and said, hey, I'm now involved in your case, and what are some tricks you have
Sure.
to try to let that parent know you're not there against them, you're there for the kids? So how do you connect like that?
So, I mean, that is really tough. And you encounter people with all different types of backgrounds and sort of levels of defensiveness and levels of just not knowing what's going on, right? And so I always start out by just explaining my role to them. Like, hey, this is why I'm here. I know you want what's best for your kid, because a lot of times people, they may make mistakes, or they may make poor decisions, or they may have less resources than would be desirable, or whatever's going on in their lives. I would say that the majority of the parents that I talk to, even if they've done something wrong or made a mistake, they love their kids and they want what's best for their kids. So if you come at them with that, hey, I'm just trying to help us all get to that place where, your child is in the safest environment that's going to have, be the best place for them. Sometimes that can help. Honestly, sometimes it doesn't always help. And sometimes you have to reiterate that. And then there's a lot of folks who kind of don't realize that a guardian ad litem is not an attorney for them. So, we may get hit with a lot of legal questions from the parents. And so part of my role too at Kids Voice is trying to figure out how to balance that. We can't give parents legal advice, but we can always try to refer them back to their counsel if they have an attorney, or refer them to other legal resources. It's always a struggle, but that's what we try to do.
I wouldn't even think about that. The parents seeing you as like a resource, trying to get advice. I mean, this is complicated. Emily, give us a rundown of a typical day for you.
Well, it's quite different now.
I love it.
Yeah. So it's quite different now in the pandemic times, but I will say, I'll tell you what my desired routine would be, and what I used to do and what I'm trying to get back to. So I usually start my day pretty early in the morning, crack of dawn, try to get a workout in, try to do something to kind of set my day in a positive tone. And then I try to get to the office pretty early, or try to get to work ahead of other people. That way I can kind of get my email inbox as clean as possible for the day. There's a lot of looking at my calendar. On any given day, I could be participating in meetings for Kids Voice, meetings for one of the committees I'm on for the State Bar or the Indy Bar. I could be having meetings with clients, meetings with parents. Lately, I've been doing Zoom meetings with the kiddos that I'm GAL for. So that's been fun, getting to see them kind of in their natural pandemic habitats that they've created for themselves in their rooms. So I usually have between 2 and 5 meetings per day. So that's usually what I'm doing throughout the day. And then I wrap up hopefully by, 4:30 or 5. I'm also a very social person. So back before the pandemic, and even now, I'm usually involved in some sort of, once or twice a week doing a happy hour with friends, now virtually, just to kind of catch up with folks, commiserate with my fellow family law attorneys. I enjoy doing that. We've got to be there for each other. We have a very strong family law bar here in Marion County in Indianapolis, and we're a pretty close-knit group, so that's good. Yeah, so that's pretty much my day.
It really is. I don't do any family law, but I feel like as soon as you and I became friends and the other family law attorneys saw that you were friends with me, they're like, oh, I guess we'll be friends with Marc too. So I really do credit you with some of that.
We're a very welcoming bunch, I think. So you're welcome to hang out with us.
You guys really just like are supportive too, like on these various Facebook groups I see, CJ, lifting each other up. That's awesome. One of the things you mentioned, and one of your friends, I asked them for some just intel on you. One of them suggested me asking you, how does an extrovert survive a pandemic? And so you mentioned these happy hours. What other kind of tips do you have for people that are feeling stir crazy right now?
Yeah. So I would say, just trying to stay connected as much as you can. It's not ideal, but there is this kind of, at first, for me at least, there was this kind of like, just, oh, this is so doom and gloom, like never going to be able to do anything ever again. It was very sad, but I'm lucky to have the support system that I do and to have the friends that I do, and just be able to maintain those connections. There's Zoom, of course, which is what we're using now, and it has its limitations. There's also other apps that you can get, just searching on your app store on your phone or on your iPad or device, where you can play games with people. There are also virtual tours of places that are pretty cool. So museums all around the world that you may never get to see in real life, but now they've kind of opened up their doors. So I would suggest that, and like doing it with a friend. Also staying like connected with people on social media, having those conversations in the comment sections. I know it's not for everyone, but it is kind of like part of it's always been a part of my life even before the pandemic. And so I've always got my Facebook buddies, there if I need them. So.
One of the best apps I found is that house party app. And
yes, I was just thinking of that, where you can draw pictures and
game like you mentioned. We were like, what do we talk about? What are we doing here? We found 90s trivia. It was like 3 o'clock in the morning, and we're all like, I need to go to bed. So yeah, I feel like this pandemic has been very difficult and challenging, but we have so many cool tools, internet, video chat. There's so many ways to help out with this. Emily, you kind of talked about, the challenges of your job, and just knowing you and talking to you in this interview, I know you love your job, because if you didn't love your job, you wouldn't get there bright and early. You wouldn't be smiling. Everything about you screaming, you love what you do, is what keeps you inspired.
So, honestly, I'm not always like happy and smiley. So we'll start there. There are lots of times when I have to express my frustration. So I would say this kind of goes back to what I was just talking about, but having people that you can commiserate with, and having good relationships outside of court with opposing counsel, so that you can talk to them on a human level about cases and get better results, I think is really important. Being able to communicate with people, advocate for your position and your client's position, of course, but being able to kind of talk to people on a level where you can get things done instead of just being like butting heads the whole time. I think that makes my job more enjoyable. It makes me a happier person. And I honestly think it leads to better results for the kiddos that we serve at Kids Voice. And I would say everyone I work with at Kids Voice is really good at that aspect of kind of, being real and being available to people and being, easy to work with and good to work with on cases. And so I do think that's part of our, our ability to succeed and get things done. We're all staunch advocates for children and for making sure their needs are met and those sorts of things. I would say those human connections and having that is a big part of why I enjoy my job.
That's awesome. That is awesome. And I know a number of people that work with you, and they all speak so highly of you. And that's a fact. So everyone I talk to that is in my circle, they just love you. So keep it up. You sound like a fantastic person to work with and for. Okay.
Thank you.
So now we have some pop quiz time here.
Oh, gosh. Okay.
You ready for this? There's only 4. It's not that many bad. Okay. Cats or dogs?
Well, it's funny that you asked that because it's no secret to my friends on social media that I have several cats. We'll just say that.
How many is several? How many is several?
6, but they all have the same biological mom cat. So, I kind of think that since they're all related, that kind of makes it better somehow in my head.
You're keeping the family together. I respect
exactly. That. Like, I don't want any broken homes for human children or cat children. So, but that's it's funny.
Your love runs. That's how deep.
Right. It's funny though, because I would say that I'm probably more of a dog person. I always tell people that. Like, I was never a cat person until I got my cats. So, and I still don't. I still, get more excited to see other people's dogs. So that's the truth.
Okay. Tater tots or French fries?
I would say French fries, but in the form of chips, like true English pub fare chips.
Okay. And I've been following you on social media for quite some time. You actually gone to England at least twice in the time I've known you.
Yeah, so I try to get there at least once a year. It is my favorite country to visit, and I studied abroad there when I was in college, and so I've made some connections there, and I just love going back and kind of exploring new parts. I actually was supposed to be in England right now, so we could be having this interview, and I'd be on the Isle of Wight, but alas, I am here. So
I will have a beer for you. I'll drink it, and I'll think about you. You should be somewhere else. What is without naming names, what is the craziest thing you've seen an opposing party or their attorney do in a hearing?
In a hearing?
Yes.
Well, I have had someone kind of in the middle of their testimony. This was not a party. This was a witness. Sort of start to give like a mini sermon that the judge had to end because I think everyone else was like too afraid to object. So I would say that was probably one of the most intense things that I've seen.
Yeah, you can't object. You're gonna make God mad.
Right. Okay. Hard to argue with that.
What is the craziest thing you've seen from your front porch? I've heard your house is quite the hotbed of activity.
From my front porch. I don't know. I see a lot of different weird things from my front porch. Lots of people have a wide variety of interests in music, and they like to play that music very loudly, and they have some very creative displays of their speakers and subwoofers. I have a neighbor whose entire vehicle appears to be just made out of speakers. So that's interesting. I would say that's one of the most interesting things on my block. But yeah, without mentioning anybody's specific, potential alleged criminal activity, that's what I'll say.
Okay, if someone wanted to reach you, what is the best number to reach you at?
I would say, so I have a lot, since I wear several hats, I have several different numbers. But I would say probably they could reach me the quickest via, and they could call or text this number, is 317-721-9235.
And if someone wanted to get you involved in a Guardian Ad Litem case, you said you kind of do those on the donut counties.
Mm-hmm.
Would a party reach out to you to get you hired, or would the court go? How does that work for?
So it happens a lot of different ways. So I would say that the majority of the time when I'm appointed on a private Guardian Ad Litem case, it is because opposing counsel reaches out to me and says, hey, I'm putting together a panel. do you have any conflicts with these people, or are you available right now? This is kind of the gist of what we need. What are your fees? Those kind of things. And it's usually coming from opposing counsel. Then they'll request it from the court. Ultimately, the court has to order that a guardian ad litem is appointed, and they order the specific guardian ad litem. And so, sometimes every now and again, a judge will just, appoint me, but it more likely happens because opposing counsel has reached out and kind of gotten a clear ahead of time. So.
No, that's awesome. And so the number you gave, would that be the best number for them to reach out to you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, that's perfect. Thank you so much for spending the afternoon with me. I appreciate it.
Fun.
Ask you for a favor.
Sure.
Will you say I plead the fifth with me on the count of three? Is it possible? You don't have to.
Yeah.
1.
I will.
2.
And I do.
3. I plead the fifth.
I plead the fifth.
Thank you so much.